Good evening, everyone. Welcome to WBPL. Tonight, we'll be doing a special interview with Texs, Gypsy, and Mike, the crew behind Texs Talks Battletech. Tonight, I, Striker, will be asking questions we've gotten from the chat, from email, and some that will eventually come on through. So, yes, we will be interacting with everybody. So, first off, I'm sure mostly introductions won't be necessary, but why don't we go ahead and do that anyway? First off, we have Mr. Texs, the writer of Texs Talks Battletech.
Yep, that's me. Hi.
Next up is Crow. Would you consider probably the main editor of the series, Crow? Or at least the current main editor of the series, would you say?
Mike's getting back to his room.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think he's. Yeah, I hear slam. This is a BPL production where it's like, "Are you? So what do you think about flying around the world?" And then you hear like someone yelling and be like, "Burrito!" In the background.
As then a burrito hits the microphone.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Yes.
The actor went out for a smoke.
I went out for a spaghetti.
Oh, spaghetti.
Yeah, Mike loves microwaving spaghetti. Last night, though, he did make empanadas.
Fantastic.
Ooh, I made them with my bare hands.
Yes, I'll ask again now that you're actually here, Mike. Would you say you're probably the main editor for the series currently for Texs Talks Battletech?
Currently, we're going to be doing some co-op stuff. It's going to be sick.
Okay. Yep. And of course, also we have with us Gypsy. You're new to editing the Texs Talks Battletech videos, correct, Gypsy?
Yes,
right.
I did help with the ads this time, like the last 20 minutes of the video, and the episode prior to that I also did a couple of the ads. So
Okay.
yeah, that's been my contribution so far into the big flustercock that has been Texs Talks Battletech.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So, okay. That's pretty interesting. We do have some questions to kind of start things off. Let's get just a short little summary of how these generally come together, as far as the steps needed to put together one of these documentaries. And this is open to anyone, so feel free.
Tex, you started up, man.
Yeah, well, they're saying I'm apparently a little low.
All right. Let me go ahead and turn that.
I'm low. Yeah, not sure how that gets compressed or what have you. Normally the thesis starts off with a lot of throwing things at the wall. It is just dump loads of research and raking it around, and then boxing myself, trying to find smarter ways to say things, and then condense it. And then sometime after that, a finalized draft appears, near final, and I show it to my team. And they ask me, from what hole have you climbed out of, and what in the loving shit is wrong with you? How can we ever make this? And then 2 to 3 months after that point, film happens, and it's magical.
Okay. That's pretty good. So about 2 to 3 months total time then, that's as far as like the video editing and everything like that goes, where the
That
basic...
can vary.
Of
It varies.
Asterisk. It is, if everything goes perfectly fine, sure.
Okay.
But we're not making Skyline chili. We don't do it by the dump truck load. So we
We only have one microwave.
Yeah, we only have one microwave between us, you know?
And how old did you say that microwave is?
Oh God, I'm 37, 38 this year. Yeah.
Okay, so
That
it's
microwave, yeah.
so the microwave's got a dial, and you can audibly hear it vibrate.
Oh no, this was a touch. This is a fancy touch panel one that they got back in the day,
Oh, okay.
where the buttons almost break when you press into it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's dive a little bit deeper. I know this has been answered before Tex, but maybe for some people that have not heard this, generally how long is writing in a general sense before the deep research goes? Like the preliminary.
Oh my!
The
preliminary,
yes.
The preliminary sketch, because I've had to go through this goddamn process with the charger. It goes like this. I was like, I'll just write down something, and I'll just write charger, okay, and then my brain would go question mark. Is it okay? What do we know about it? So then I started writing down the popular misconceptions, or at least the popular conception of the charger. And I asked a million questions about the fan base. I walked around. I intruded on people's streams. People have seen me around the community just interacting with people. And I'll just say, what do you guys think about the charger? And I just listened to people who play tabletop, MechWarrior Online, MechWarrior 5, modded, unmodded, Hairbrain Schemes, Battletech, whatever, about the charger. And I was going around talking, and everyone had their opinions. And so I wrote all of that down. And then I said, okay, what's the no bullshit about the charger? And that's where the story gets interesting. The separation of what we think we know versus what's real. And it's a good story. It's a very good story. It even has an Ameris in it. I'm not going to say more, but it is, as a process goes, it's about pulling threads until you find something that falls in your lap, and clumsily enough, you try to turn that into something. And sure, you make mistakes and learn stuff along the way. I've made plenty of mistakes, but it's just about learning and improving as you go, and trying to find better ways of doing it, and finding new ways of doing it, and making sure that your team is also finding new ways of contributing and learning and developing all this stuff.
Okay. I guess a similar question then for Crow and Gypsy. When it comes to editing the video, are you guys, do either of you either make up, or is there a example given out like storyboarding, like they do with movies or usually cartoons, where there's a general storyboard of how you would like to see things played out and edited?
He gives me a script and he says, "What do you think?" And then I go, "Yeah, we could do that." And then he'll go and rewrite it like 15 times and go, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Yeah, we could do that." And then he'll go rewrite it 16 more times. And then I'll be like, "I don't know if we could do that." And he'll be like, "Perfect." That's how he ends up doing that. Because he waits to see like everyone's different reactions from what he's written. He has everyone check on it.
I agree. No, I agree. I'm a nut. I absolutely agree on that. I am absolutely neurotic.
Well, it's perfectly fine though, because what will happen is like, this is something that Gypsy will do too. It's like he said this to me when I first started. He's like, I wrote out like a whole bunch of stuff, just on like brain spatterings on paper of like, just take your pick, and you went and did all of them. And then Gypsy does the same exact thing. It's because
that was a great example of that was when I wrote out the stupid fucking commercial for the Van Zant Free State Militia. I'm just like, whatever you want to do, just make it stupid. And I wrote it all out, and I said, you have to go watch. Because I asked him, I said, in Argentina, do they have the recruiting commercials for the Army or the Marines? And you said,
no. We don't have anything like those wild ads.
Yeah, so I showed him, I blew his fucking mind by showing him like the Marine commercials where like the guy fights a dragon.
Oh god.
Yeah. So or like someone has like a sword and they're like stabbing imaginary stuff with it, and it's awesome. And I said, dude, check this shit out. So we made that as like a deep fried version of that commercial. But yeah, I mean, I lay nothing but bad ideas down, and then I turn around and the team has somehow gotten it just like near perfect. So again, team effort.
Okay. So it sounds like then you give them the base idea of what you'd like to see. Then they're more or less sent out with their own creative abilities to put together what they believe you want then? Does that sound correct?
Yes and no. I'm anal retentive about some things. I will butt heads on because we all butt heads. We have to, because we have in one hand ambition and then on the other hand, we have bills. And so
Yeah,
it's
we
one
have
of
a
those
job that
things.
we have to do.
Right.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you go, I will make the greatest art of all time. And then you find out, you're like, hey, it's been a while. You need to finish this. You need to get this done. And so that is the thing you have to wrestle with. But the other thing is even small details. Mike and I will argue about film stock. Mike and I will argue about film stock per scene. Because in one scene, the contrast is glorious. And then in the next scene, it's so dark. It's a fucking horror movie. And then we have to find music. And that's where we just sit there for hours and chip away at minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a job that takes a lot of people listening.
You know, it actually does lead into another question we've got about how long does it usually take to gather assets, be it the artwork and music?
That varies on episode, man. That's really that answer right there. It's like the last one we were waiting on a lot of assets, but we were also like stuck with like a lot of work stuff that we had to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were like pretty much boned on both ends, and then
Yeah.
when we finally got everything, we got everything like kind of set. Finally released it. It felt like, man, what a load! Like that, we felt like we spent way too much time because we were just in limbo on everything.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's like, yeah, we usually we speak to the people that normally like produce stuff with us, like Eldonius and Spacer and Lou and all kinds of other people that produce stuff with us, and you know what they give back is used to kind of put this whole thing together.
That was another thing I wanted to ask or add on to this, is you do use a lot of commission art. Eldonius being one of the big examples, Lou, as you mentioned, Spacer. How much of the art you use is commissioned as compared to some of the stuff you can officially find, be it in the source books or other manuals or from other media?
That is the thing, is like, that is the horrifying thing, is we can never use art that's not official, that isn't unmodified in some way. As Mike will tell you, there is a requirement for that, for fair use. The
Like
other
we won't
thing,
browse. We see a lot of sweet like art on like all Ars Tech, like all these other websites.
oh man,
And
so
we're
much
like-
sweet fucking art.
We can't just Google image, just like save as, and then go, well, that's all we needed. Like you have to modify it so much so that it doesn't even look like the original, and that's not the point. So I'm like, yeah, there's no way we could just take stuff randomly from the internet.
No, we can take the official source books because that's great. But then we have to modify that even as is, clean it up, resize it, make everything fit. The commissioned art over time is taking a bit longer.
Okay. We do have a question from Mad Cow Lad. He asks, where do all the sources come from? So similar to this one. For the video mixture. Is it a mixture of source books? Can you go in depth as far as like which source books you do use for the lore? Or is more found in the novels?
It's everywhere, and it's also a lot of, God, it is just searching and searching and searching. We have copies of pretty much everything, if not hard copy, electronic. And so you'll just sit there and read and read and read and read. And if you want to see how like deep and crunchy Battletech fluff books can be, go look at the American Civil War books, Part 1 and Part 2, like The Fall of Terra and stuff. Those books have so much stuff in the background. If you read through those, you'll see, oh wow, the American Civil War is like the short version of what's in this in terms of operationally represented. The novels I will pick from, especially for stories where you need to talk about character of people. In the fluff, character is usually expressed in 2 paragraphs, so it's very much overblown or very dismissive or very demurred. If you want to look at people's character, it's going to be in the novels. And you're going to have to go read and try to figure out what their motivations are, at least put somewhat of a spin on it. And Mike is giggling in the background.
I'm not. Shut up. I'm not saying anything. I'm not
Mike and
saying
I have a
anything.
lot
I'm
of
just eating my
insight.
spaghetti. Shut up.
We have a lot of inside jokes about Battletech novel stuff, and we will tell none of them to no one.
Fair. Let's see. We have another question from Lucky Omen, and he asks, does Texs ever plan to cover the Jihad, or would it be acceptable for someone else to cover?
I think that the Jihad I may cover in time, but the real reason I haven't covered all of the Jihad and everything else was the Jihad was where I lost interest in Battletech. The storyline jumped very quickly, very fast forward. It was a bunch of new rules, new owners, rocks fall, everyone dies, shit happens. It got expanded on and treated better later. But when I was going through it, I was like, oh, God, I can't, no. And I just stopped buying new stuff with Battletech for a long time. So it represents for me like a time when I left Battletech, and a lot of people did as well. I knew a lot of people who just kind of slowly walked away when FASA ended. And that's all right. But I kind of came back. So I may touch on it in time, but my God, if people want to make content, let them make content. If they want to talk about everything in Battletech, I mean, I want to know a guy who makes content on all of the fast food restaurants of the inner sphere, or all of the cuisine, or all of the culture, or all of the, minor political powers in this various polities. I think that people should look at the setting in macro and micro level and slice it however they wish, from whichever lens they wish and whichever biases they wish to prove. I would love to see a Clanner Presents History where there is not a contraction in the whole fucking thing. I think that would be fucking hilarious. I want to see all this stuff. I would love to see more coverage.
Indeed.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. Let's see here. Here's a question from Dual Wielder. How many people are actively involved in the production of Texs Battletech? Let's go ahead and include, obviously, the artists you do commission. And how about some of the voice actors you bring in? Because this does lead from another question. How many members of the BPL are usually involved in a Texs Battletech?
Varies. That varies. The core group is me, Gypsy, Mike. This is the team that hours based, just sheer pure hours of involvement encompass, I would say, 85-90% of the production, just in terms of total hours sank. And I mean, if anyone doubts us, I would welcome them to come sit through when we do render for 3 days. And sit through where we lose sleep trying to worry about, what if this render came out right, or if we're going to match this or match that, or if this song works, or if we can finally make this sequence work the 12th time we've scrubbed it. That's where a lot of the worry and work and power bill goes.
Yes.
In terms of people who are in the orbit and involved as needed, that is the artist, that is the voice artists, a lot of people that come in and out as needed, because I hold a gun to nobody's head when it comes to working with me. So Eldonius also works. He does art for Lancer. He's done art for, I believe, Heavy Gear. He's done art for Catalyst. He does art for everyone, and he does all of this amazing art. Lou does art. He has his own commissions. Spacer has his own comic. Everyone, of course, stays busy in their own house, and we involve them when we come closer to production. And we naturally never want to say that we own these people's time or even the majority of the art. I mean, we just want to make the cool video. That's it.
Okay. I'm going to branch off a couple other questions that we have similar to that one. Going with the voice work, you have had George Ledoux do some work. When you initially got him for the after credits scene, how was that approached, if I am able to ask? Also, if some of these questions seem a little more on the side where you might be not that comfortable answering, feel free to tell me and we can move on.
No, it's fine. So rephrase the question. I want to make sure that I heard it correctly.
Okay. Someone professional like George Ledoux, you've had him on board for a few videos now. When he initially did Duncan Fraser for the ending credits of one of the videos, how was that approach? Did you approach him, or did he somehow come to you through the Battletech community?
I approached him coldly. I just wanted to make sure that like how that was phrased, because it's like approach. Like, no, I never met the guy. Well, in person, we've talked a bit. I approached him because when I was a kid, like early 2000s, fucking MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries was hot shit, and everyone who was in the Battletech community was like, well, FASA may be going bad, but hey, MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, and everyone fucking loved Duncan Fraser, and that was always a thing among Battletech people in that era, where you could just sit there and be like, hello there, sports fans, and, you know, people would know instantly what you were referencing. And it was fantastic, but I was like, this guy still has to be out there. And I looked him up, and lo and behold, he was. So I got in touch, and he's been great to work with ever since. I mean, if you want to interact with a professional, be nice, be polite, be kind, but also have an idea of what you're asking before you ask it.
Okay. That's pretty good. Personal experience, I've met a few actors, things like that. Yeah, as long as you seem very professional with them, they'll be very professional back. This one, a little more for Mike and Gypsy. On the technical side of things, what is the general tools you have, be it programs for editing, and even maybe some of the hardware you have for your editing and rendering?
Well, Gypsy, you go first, man.
Okay, as tools, when I first started editing for the Legion, it was the shorter stuff like farting whiskey. Back then, I used Vegas. Then I switched to Premiere on recommendation by Mike, and it was at first a bit painful to get used to another editing program, but it paid off because it's much more versatile in a couple of ways. So yeah, it's mostly Adobe Premiere and Paint.net, since I haven't used Photoshop in a long time. But when you need to do like a couple of quick edits to splash some stuff together, yeah. And other than that, it's just generally I tend to cheat a lot by downloading stuff. For example, if I need like footage from something, generally just search it on YouTube and download the video directly from YouTube. So that's generally how the sausage is made, in that, at least in myself, the production line. But as for specific hardware, well, I used to have this shitty laptop that had like an integrated graphics card that at a 10-minute video would render in an hour and a half. Then finally, I could finally start building a desktop. And right now, I have a Ryzen 5 and an RTX 3050. So if you're looking to start editing and all that stuff, yeah, you will be served by that. But you don't really need, unless of course you want to do it speedily. You will need the hardware, but you don't really need all the specs, because you can start very, very small, and as long as you build up, you will get the results.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say mine was, when I started, was a Intel 4790K. This was back like when I first started working with Texs, but before that, I used that computer for like the longest time. I saved up all my money to get all the parts for it, and that was my editing computer forever. And then we started doing all these like bigger animations over time. Somebody actually just asked me, and I already replied as a dual wielder, about that animation for the catapult with the like battle scene. Asked if I made it from scratch. Yes, I made that from scratch. There was only like a few assets in there that I got from the Storyblocks website. That was it. I had to I was like, this is fun. I wanted to have fun with that. So, and I was done on that computer with like there was like a GTX 980, I think that was the card. I don't know what was before. I think before that it was like something even less. I think it was like a 480 or something. But now we're on we actually saved up for like a year and got a Threadripper, and it's actually been really helpful for doing all this crazy fun laser editing. Like stuff still like we'll be like, oh man, it's gonna take 20 minutes, and we're just like, hurrah, because we used to like use that time to watch movies. We still do, because there's inevitably something's gonna be messed up by the time I render it.
That used to be, let's discover what Steven Seagal has made in the last 3 weeks. That's what that used to be. It used to be like, hey, have you seen The Perfect Weapon? Because that is amazingly awful in all the best ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
That move with Mike Tyson, that is Chinese propaganda.
There's so many fucking crazy movies out there. Just watch Red Letter Media, and when they start going through those bargain basement movies, especially the one on like Money Plane. My God.
All right. Let's see. We have a question from Mad Crow Lad. We have touched upon the scripts a little bit. So about how many takes or tries does it generally take before everything is agreed upon and you're happy with it? As far as, let's go with like the writing and the audio, and if I could add a little bit else onto that, do you do any voice prep work when you do read the scripts for the audio recordings?
I'll tell about the audio, but Tex, tell them about all the voice stuff you have to do.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
So I have a fucked up voice, and for some reason, some people think that I'm sitting here like, yeah, I'm sitting here trying to sound as fucking blah, 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 blah. If I could sound like anything else, I would. I used to sound fairly normal, and my voice got pretty fucked up by acid and a lot of damage. And so I find myself like struggling sometimes to talk for like an hour, and it's gotten hard. And so I will sit there and just have to box my voice box to get it to cooperate, my voice not to go. And on top of that, I will work stupid hours on everything I throw myself into. And so I will sit there and literally fight myself through the audio process and get everything done. And then crazy fucking shit will happen. I will be trying to do lines for stuff, and then in the background, hilariously on some takes, you can hear like goat walking around. He is the loudest human being ever to walk near an audio studio. And it's funny. He doesn't mean anything by it, but it'll be like, I'll be sitting there and I'll be, like going, all right, okay, I'm going to do this take and I'm going to get it right. I'm getting frustrated. And then I'll hear him like walk through the hallway, and it'll be like, and I'll be like, what is he doing? And then I'll go out there and he's like, building a battle rattle or something, for testing. And I'm like, are you farming in our backyard? And he is. He's actually really good at it. He's managed to bring in a whole harvest of spinach, which wow. From backyard. So I give him shit. But sometimes you'll sit there and get frustrated. And even minor, tiny, goofy little inconveniences like that will throw you. Or the train, We live near the train tracks because poor. So, we'll have the train in the background, and I'll be sitting there trying to do my script and try to work through and pace everything. And then some jerk just lays on the horn for approximately 90 minutes because his life is defined between beeps. And he is the man who beeps, and he is the one who will be certain we know he beeps. And so that's always fun, especially when you're like, just a little bit longer and I'm almost done with this chapter and then I can rest. And someone will come along and just lay the fuck on the horn for all time, as though the continuity of the universe depended on it. The other things I have to box through are, I have a stutter. I can get very frustrated and start to repeat things. I have some OCD problems. and that can make things very difficult. So in short, it's me screaming in a room for a bit, and then on occasion these videos come out because Mike is kind in editing them together into a cohesive narrative.
It's also like the process is just like everyone's like, oh, how many takes do you do? And it's like he won't like stop recording in the middle of it. I don't like having to have multiple recordings to go through. I like everything on one solid long recording so I can just cut the parts I want out and then put them where I want them instead of like, oh, this is take 11 and I have to keep double clicking. I just want to hit play and then just cut the parts I want. Sometimes I'll even do like a fake take or something just to like warm himself up, and I'm like, oh, that one sounds better. So I'm like, I go with the rule of like just capture everything, and then we do the silence in the beginning and the silence at the end to give like a bit of space so we can get rid of some of that ground noise that comes from the microphone.
Room tone.
Yeah. George Ledoux does that.
He does that with everything he sends over. He's very old school, and it's smart because he will just sit there and you'll hear him come in the room and he claps his hand and he goes,
he's been doing it for a long time, man.
Room tone. And then you hear it 10, 15 seconds of silence and you hear, oh, train. Everyone, train.
No, the train is a fan of the show. That's why it's...
The train is just calling in live. Just to let us know that we are live on the set of Blues Brothers.
And Mr. Train, what are your takes on your position in Texs Talks Battletech? What do you have to say?
He's held the horn down for about 45 seconds, and now is faded into oblivion.
He hates us so much. I don't know what his deal is.
I don't know what his deal is, but he's like, hate as he goes by.
And Gypsy, like, so when you were putting the commercials together, how did you get together with Texs to make those?
Well, first Texs like with the recruitment ad video. He told me you need to watch these recruitment ads, and I was expecting like bad CGI of soldiers shooting everywhere, and like
no, that would be reasonable. Action movie would be reasonable. Nope.
But the old ads were something else entirely. Like, there is a guy just like in like a temple, like he's fucking Tomb Raider, and he's evading shit, and he's like climbing to the top, and then Marines. Like, what the fuck does this have to do with killing people?
He had to fight the jungle gym, and then I showed you where the guy fights the dragon with his sword, and it's struck by lightning.
And the one where it's a chess piece.
Yeah, and you were like, what is this, Dungeons and Dragons? This is for nerds.
Yeah, but I guess that's what the Marine PR team had in mind back then.
I think it's great.
And then Tex gave me like a general outline. He had prepared like this document with a bunch of lines. You know, that's the stuff the recruit said during the video. So that's how I got the different people in the video, like Goat or Dix or Hat to voice a couple of and also we had Flop. And once we had all that, it kind of like clicked together, because what's the inevitable end result of having this just string of lunacy? You just need to put it along with Halls of the Mountain King, and it just writes itself.
Oh yeah, beautiful escalation using soundtrack, because we are such weirdos when it comes to music. And like I had a whole argument with Mike about Django Reinhardt, and.
Yeah, he has to keep reminding me about the names of music. All you have to do is play it for him. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that track. I'm terrible with names.
All right. Let's see. We've got another question here. It's a little more for Mike and Gypsy. So a question for the editors. Usually about how many man hours and hot dogs go into one of these videos usually? Be it
I believe this one...
What?
Yeah, I believe this one is best suited for Mike
Well,
because it involves.
let's-
Oh yeah. How many man hours does Gypsy? I don't know. He doesn't have like what do you have, like a slave plantation?
That's horrible. That's horrible. And, like it's the only
How many
only
man hours? Yeah, no.
no, the only two times you count man hours is like agricultural labor and then like black projects. Like, how many man hours will it take to build the Saturn V secretly in Louisiana? And you're like, it will take 8,000 technicians,
so funny.
4 months.
Oh god. All right.
Gym band.
Yeah, gym band. What's it? So man hours and what was it? How many hot dogs?
Man hours and hot dogs are usually spent to work on a single one of these videos.
A lot of them.
We everything put into the Marauder was like a solid year of time, and I mean literally a year of man hours for one person.
Like if you were to go hour by hour, it would generally come up to
correct.
about a year. Okay.
Yep. And that was just me losing my mind halfway through production. Depression's a bitch, and it can happen to anybody. And then also struggling with writing and doing a lot of research because the Warhammer is the poster boy to OG Battletech. And if you do that fucking poorly, people will remember that forever. It's not something you can touch lightly. And I had to offer my ultimate thesis, which was something that Mike preserved, is in the end, accidentally, I had written a thesis that was more about coming to terms with the struggles of myself and fighting really hard and just being, just trying to finally accept a place in the universe is good enough. And I felt very much kind of like the Warhammer. It's utilitarian and it's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And perhaps in that is its closest attempt at perfection. It's kind of zen as a thesis goes, and it's a little bit different or perhaps deeper in some cases. Some of that barren stuff went over quite a few people's heads, but military procurement expenditure theory is kind of like that. It's one of those things, getting into that weird world, that murky world of buying one army and operating another, as Dr. Thomas Barnett was so keen of informing us in the early 2000s. So I find that it's really interesting to be able to evolve and move, but it's also great to have just a team that can help pick you up when things are going crazy, because without that, everything would have stalled and probably never recovered at one point or another along the way. These things are way too complex for one person to make.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got one question coming up here. I'm going to ask it, and I'll make it kind of a two-parter. Bulkzerker asks, seeing the Texs Talks Battletechs improve over the past few years, I have noticed that since the Marauder has increased to 4K resolution, is there a reason behind this, knowing what it does to the file size? So
future-proofing.
Okay.
In one word, future-proofing. I mean, that's my takeaway from it is, as soon as a medium becomes available or format becomes available, start adopting it, start playing with it, and start using it and figuring out what you can do with it. It's like in any sort of new transmission medium. At one point, FM radio was new. At one point, AM radio was new. At one point, a format or a medium will be new. And implementing and adopting it early and seeing what you can get out of it, especially, as Mike pointed out, stuff like maps, stuff like upscaled resolution. The reason we started doing 4K, in all honesty, is we noticed people showing pictures of them watching the American Civil War on big TVs. And we went, people do put this on projectors. This isn't just something people watch on phones. So to future-proof us, we decided to say, well, shit, if people treat this like documentary film night, we better act like documentary filmmakers. But Mike, Gypsy, if you have any other input, please say so.
As far as like making it as big as we have, it's mainly because we're going off whatever is in the script and whatever's been written, and Texs usually tries to write it and he goes, okay, this is what I feel is correct.
No, he means 4K.
You mean like in 4K? Yeah. Oh, you mean like in the resolution? Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, why did we go to 4K?
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Sorry, I was thinking you asked me something entirely different.
No. In terms of complexity, like that, you can
Yeah.
blame me all day for that. I'll take that flag.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about that. Like, how did it get
like
so complex
yeah.
it got to 4K? I was like, well, it's because the script got really, really long, and Tex is not. We're not blaming Tex for that at all. He
No.
reads it, and then I'll read it, and we go, dude, this is fucking perfect. That's it. That's all we do. There's like, if he writes a one that's shorter, and he goes, dude, this is fucking perfect, then we'll do that one. But
Yeah.
I'll read something and go, yeah, this is gonna be like an hour 20, and I'm usually not
Yeah.
that far off. And he goes, no, it'll be like 30 minutes, and then he'll
No.
record it and be like, okay, it was like
I
an
never
hour and
s-
40 minutes.
Well, it depends because we're all off on times in some ways. And
No,
will
oh,
admit
I am
that.
totally. I'm late to everything. I'm terrible.
That's
But
art,
yeah.
though. I've never met an artist who showed up. Like, have you ever heard of, like, in stage or play, they're like, the artist was there 2 hours early with a positive attitude. Like, you never hear that. Like, you never
They
hear
have
that.
drugs,
Like,
maybe.
yeah, but you never hear that. Like, yes, Michelangelo, cheerful and kind, and always finish things on time. Like, never ever hear that about anybody who makes anything. And we're not even Michelangelo, so we have more excuses.
Yeah. I was gonna say like the reason why we went up to 4K though is exactly that. Is at some point, like even though there's going to be a point of where no one's gonna like remember we did most of this, or maybe the people who do will be able to have a chance to play this on the highest resolution they can without having to like go back and watch some like 240p whatever 720p we uploaded. We have a copy of every project that we've done since the Catapult, and we also have the raws that Matt's Guardian, the original editor, sent in for text. So we use those if we ever need to like back these videos up. But we also want to preserve them, make them a lot bigger so they're easier to see.
Okay. That does lead into the two-parter that I wanted to ask. But first off, we're about 15 minutes out from where we predict to ending. Would you guys be opposed to going maybe a half hour longer or so, kind of get through some more questions?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine
Oh,
with
Rich.
another half hour. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're going to use a question from NNT28. Will the scope of each video continue to increase in length and complexity, or is the Warhammer video about where the scope will remain? And I would like to tack on with the older videos that Matt has, as Guardian has done, the Atlas, the Awesome, even the Catapult, which was shorter in length comparably. Would you consider going back and maybe remastering those at a point, or like going into more details you currently have, or are you good with how those are sitting right now?
I will speak for myself, but I always value the input of the team. When it comes down to a mech, what I can say about it is often what I feel about it. And I also do read chat, so no, I'm not calling myself Michelangelo. I'm saying that if he can fuck off and never deliver sometimes, I think it's okay if occasionally we're a few days late, because we're not him. But the do not call me Michelangelo. The idea is when it comes down to length and complexity, I had to get a lot into. I wanted to put one last shovelful on the idea of why did mechs change in such a radical way, and so I had to explain the dangers of going all in on something, especially in military weapons procurement. And so I'm telling the story of like 20 different weapon systems through the Baron to explain the notion that good enough is often and frequently perfect. It is the enemy of perfect, because perfect happens never. Good enough will often last long enough and be good enough to survive. Whereas perfect is mystical. It's an idea, and it's an idea that doesn't stand up to anything. It's a joke. And so in the interwar period in history, you always find this gaggle fuck of items that are just weapon shaped, where you'll see, here's the tank with 20 people in it, or here's the plane that's also a tank, or here's the plane with 8 different kinds of engines, and all of these things come out, and they're all perfectly valid until the war starts. And then you find out, who's right and who's smoking crack. And so I had to show that with the Baron, and I had to show how coming up with a crazy what-if idea results in getting your ass clapped. So with the Baron playing out in the background of huge purchases, you look at the Warhammer and say, okay, here's a company that saw that play out to all the other companies, and then said, okay, how do we not do that and get fucked up on it? And then made the Warhammer. And all they did was just copy other people's homework and then just fill in the lines. And I go, wow, that's an interesting story. So you have the story of the Baron and the Warhammer together as a contrast not only of that giant separation between demand and reality, objective reality in military affairs, but also the understanding and the primer for how a successful company navigates that changing world and then just grabs something and runs. In between, I got to tell some pretty fucking cool stories, especially about the Taurian Concordat, filled in a few little bits and pieces. As far though as length, I may not have anything further to say than I have to say on a subject. Right now, I'm sitting at 26, 28 pages on the Charger, and I'm on draft 14. And without any further muse, I think I'm nearer the end of that than the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really good about it. I've shown the bit around. I've shown the script around to a few people, and they've really liked what I had, or a few of my peers have offered points or said this works or that doesn't. And then I've showed my team, and they're liking it so far. But as part of writing or creating anything, as long as my team feels that I've not lost my fucking mind or Howard Hughes to this thing, I think they'll be as long as they are. And I know that means perhaps a time of waiting, perhaps most unwelcome for some people who are used to more short format, instant gratification. I would ask them to learn just some, not infinite patience, and see what we can do, because I know we can do goddamn amazing things.
All right. Are there any plans to revisit some of the shorter ones anytime soon, or no?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've thought about doing that, not anytime soon. I mean, unless we have a massive input of like money where I can hire additional people to retask them to revisit that, and then I can somehow figure out a way of not worrying financially and having the time to dedicate to such an endeavor, because rewriting it, going full on, deep on, crazy on into it, would require more time than I can justify by a factor of about 50. And I'm trying to learn in this last year this really crazy idea that a lot of people had called SelfCompassion, which is alien to me. And so sleeping on occasion, I'm told, is an activity that people should enjoy regularly. And so I'm trying to get more into the habit of that, with mixed results, of course.
Fair.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna say we everything that Tex said about like length. Everyone's like, if we're go back, anyone could do this kind of stuff, and it's like, well, I mean, then do it. Everyone who's ever said like this stuff isn't that hard, you could just make like a shorter episode. Well, I'm like, well, go ahead and do it yourself.
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
We're perfectly fine with that, but we won't get this kind of quality if we just sort of go, let's just cut all the other stuff out because this is too heady. And it's like the people who make those decisions usually cut out all the fun. And I want to see what fun stuff we could bring instead of it just being like, oh, I don't know, that's a bit esoteric. I don't want to do all that. That's just weird. Like the only time I'll ever like make any real comment on the on the script, I'll make comments on like what I want imagery, but the only time I really make comment on the script is after it's already been recorded, and I'll cut and move things and put it in different order, and then Tex will hear it out loud and go, oh, I see what you're doing. Because, writing it is going to be way different and way more like, it's way more in your own head than it will be for me to just like put some music under it and some basic images. It's like, you see it way better that way instead of like worrying about, oh, I should cut this or that out of the script. That's how it works, man.
It's such an agonizing process because it is surgery. But I will, since we do have a group here, I will drop this out there as a piece of candy, as it were, because I'm sure that the VOD of this on our YouTube thing will be spread around the community as an interesting bit of news or what have you, once Dig populates it and what have you, because he's awesome about that and really cool and with it and cares very much and does all the fine little details, and I appreciate that. But I will drop this detail down there. I was challenged by a fan about 6 months ago who was in the hospital, and he said that he would love a chance to show his dad why Battletech is cool, and his dad can't wrap his head around it. So he said, could you write a short-term guide, a short-form guide? He's like under 10 pages on the houses of the inner sphere, just like as a limited scope thing. So I wrote it and sent it to him, and he really appreciated it. But he said, make this into a video. So I said, I don't know, I'm really busy and da-da-da. And he says, do it, no balls. And I figure if someone with chemo can tell me no balls, I probably should do it. So one of my short little things I'm working on is it's going to be a 10-pager, fairly short and succinct guide to all the houses of the inner sphere. And then I will probably do a Inner Sphere 101 on a different project, or I will do another Inner Sphere 101 on, maybe the periphery states, and just do very, very quick little shorter things that could be interesting format changes here and there just to do for fun. But also I realized to help draw people into Battletech who may not get the heady stuff right away, but they still want to get into it. So you don't want to talk to them like babies. You don't want to show, just contempt for your audience and be like, okay, these are these people and they're the good guy. You don't want to talk to people like that who are coming into a fandom. You want people to be able to grab something and kind of walk away with something of their own from it. And so I think that maybe a yardstick or something like that might be useful, at least to a new fan. And if not, it'll be fun for our team to fuck with,
Yeah.
Let's see. We got another question here. You might have answered some of it previously in chat. I might have seen, but this is probably a little more for Gypsy and Mike from Vectron. Do you guys work off like a giant project in Premiere, or do you break them up into like smaller project scenes when you guys work on something to help avoid crashing and burning?
Well, I actually did answer that, but
Okay.
it was it was like basically I have like a timeline, like a main timeline for just the main video, and then all the commercials and everything else get their own separate timelines in order to keep the project file from being like a giant mess, and also keeping your memory and your CPU usage down. Even though I have this computer, it can get bogged down just as much as anyone else's. That's one thing I never appreciated from college, was learning organizational skills and editing, and I finally had to be beat in the head by my own.
I don't think, Mike, okay, I've been to college a few times, right?
Yeah.
You've been to college a bit.
I've been to college a few times, yes.
Right. Gypsy, you do any college?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
all right.
I went.
So here's my question. Thinking back, all the things you learned at college, if you had to write them down now, if someone put a gun to your head and said, write down everything you learned in college, I bet that would fill maybe half a postcard.
Maybe.
Painfully true.
Yeah, so like looking back at that, I realized college was more like enhanced supervision for young adults.
Add context that stuff you learned that you're actually using right now.
That's what I mean. I had an engineering professor that told me I will not have a calculator at all times in the future.
Yeah. I think we've all of us have almost been there.
It's the same guy. Yeah. It's the same
guy. He's 160. He's the
I
last
don't believe
guy.
in that.
He's the last guy in the pocket of Big Abacus. He's like,
he's got abacus on his desk.
Yeah.
He's like, look, let's do some long math. And he like pulls up his blackboard on some chains, and there's just a giant abacus there, and he moves
He
it around.
shoots lightning out of his hands, and we're like, oh my god. And he just goes like, well, you would have this power too if you didn't use your calculator.
You and your electronics have softened you not from a Jedi.
This is how we rate stuff, honestly.
It's not as bad as what happens when we get near the end.
We just tell bad jokes.
Near the end, we tell really bad jokes and then start screaming. Or we are operating on like, you know when you rattle like a paint can, there's that ball bearing in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
it's
about our brain
free
cells.
price.
Yeah, that's about our brain cells on Texs Battletech, that rattling. So near the end of it, we're so fucking spent. One of two things happens. I start making George Lucas comments, and or Mike starts doing them.
Yes. That's that point in the thing where we're all like super tired.
Okay.
But what about you, Gypsy? How do you put your timelines together?
Well, yeah, it's a bit different this time around because because this last thing we're working in is like a bit experiment to see how the new triumvirate works together. I can give you guys some reprieve in the audience. If the charger sucks, you know who to blame. Just saying.
Yeah.
But
I would never allow you to do that to yourself. Don't worry, man. That's the idea of me backing you up on this, is because I really, really, really like doing all the like fun effects stuff, and I can like enhance whatever it is you're putting on the timeline. That is my favorite thing to do. So you're giving me so much fun with this, and if you need help from me on anything, you just let me know.
You know what? That actually bleeds. Oh, go ahead, Gypsy.
No, it's just it's because this thing we're working on right now is a bit of a departure from how we've been doing stuff before. Because these last two times I just been doing the ads, so I basically did the ads for the what was the one for the Warhammer? Was it the Marauder? Yes. Yeah. For the Marauder and the Warhammer, it was me delivering the ads and watching as you two slowly descended into insanity as the video entered the final phase of production. Now we're experimenting, like with me going from a benign to more growing like in your arm to being a bit more involved in the process. So yeah, it's like it's not just having your section, it's also having the entire sausage, and you have this part that will have to wait some time until we get stuff from these people, and this other stuff that we have to wait some time until we get stuff from these people. So it's a bit of a learning process. But
yeah, you're seeing what I'd say. You see, you're seeing what I've been seeing, but now we're gonna have like double the coverage, which is gonna be amazing.
It's like I heard it. I heard it with, I think it was Robert Rodriguez was talking with some guys on set, and I heard him repeat something, and it was "Esto es cine," like such as film. like, hey, all this shit broke. Whatever, that happens. And it was just, it's part of the thing going on. No matter how fucking crazy shit gets, we just kind of know that this is production. I mean, it's crazy to think that we can make anything like we do. I mean, looking up and going, I made a documentary film. That's crazy. We've made a lot on a niche subject, and we have no business doing this. Like none, zero, no professional experience really. And we do it, and people keep coming along and going, hey, good job. And we're like, how? And then they talk about it. I mean, Mike, Gypsy, and I don't know how to respond to a lot of this. We in fact usually have people talk through people to send messages to us because we're often just like horrified of the general public. We're very shy, boring people.
Yeah.
That kind of does work into another question I have here from Lord Grimos. What is your favorite part of making these videos? And what advice could you give folks who want to explore other parts of the Battletech universe? And what part would you like to see?
God.
Well,
yeah.
I was gonna say, well, multiple questions. So let's just start off with the very
the first one, right?
Yeah. So what was the first question?
The first part is, what's your favorite part about making the videos? Your favorite part?
You know, I'm gonna say this. When you're so fucking tired, but the same stupid joke makes you laugh for the 10th time, that you just laugh yourself stupid when you see it at every step of the way. Like Steiner Scout Squad, which went from storyboard, idea, and song to this finalized cartoon. And a decent damn cartoon. And how did we do that? I don't know, but we did. And so you look at stuff like that in that moment of, wow, I did that. It's very important to have, it's very important to have that when your life has been kind of difficult. It's kind of nice to have things where you can go, I made something. And it may not be perfect, but knowing that you did it, the right way, not making it cheaply, and that you did it with your friends, like your actual friends, people you hang out and play games with. That's very important to me. I'd rather be genuine in that sense than try to turn it into something professional and big and then thereby cheap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike or Gypsy, do you have a favorite part of the process you enjoy the most?
I enjoy. It's weird because I like a lot of parts. I think my favorite is probably just like putting like final on that and just being done. Because at that point I'm so like, it's not like sleep tired. It's not like tired and physical tired. It's nothing like that. It's just tired of seeing it 1,000 times and still finding typos or something. Like it's just that kind of tired. You're frustrated because you're just like, man.
Yeah. How do you spell 3? How did I spell 3? Yeah.
Yes, it's exactly that. It's just like that. When I hit final, that's my favorite. But the other one I like is just I'll be watching something. I'll watch old commercials or like just something that no one else is ever really watching or paying attention to, and then I'll like see just an element in there, and I'm like, oh, I have an idea for an entirely different thing that has nothing to do with this. And I don't know. Sometimes my brain just gets hit by like random cool ideas, and I just like enacting them. So those are my favorite parts. How about you, Gypsy? What do you got, man?
Well, probably one of my favorite parts is like giggling to yourself or getting high on your fats because you have this part that you know it's going to hit to strike a chord. Like there is this part in the Macbeth ad where Duncan is talking to this other character voiced by Michael, I think was his name, of the Scottish gentleman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when he becomes increasingly more frustrated at Duncan for fucking up the script, and the moment comes where he's just and I was like, yes, I got the screen perfectly, and then it was really satisfying seeing the audience react to that.
You guys, like, you editors sound so fucking evil when you just go like, yes, I have caught the scream perfectly.
It is, though. It's just like that.
I know. But that's how you have to look at it. It's like if someone falls down the stairs, the first thing you go is, was a camera rolling?
Dude, I know, like, that feeling where you're talking about, Gypsy. It's like whenever we did it was like the last episode where at the end you were talking about Good Enough, and like just the combination of music and everything like hits me emotionally really well. And I was like, dude, that's the fucking point right there. Or like any other time where it's like that Comstar commercial with BB Wolf doing the voice. and just that combination of music and everything, like it hit me in the funny bone the right way, because I was like, oh man, this is like as good as a corporate video, but we're shit posting.
Well, we made a Comcast video essentially.
Yeah, I straight up did, and I was like, wow, we're just doing this for a shit post. This is great.
No, and BB Wolf's great because I can just call her up and be like, hey, I'm trying to buy some MiGs off Albania. She'll help me.
She has access to those
that.
MiGs, huh?
No. She helped me pitch a shit post. She's fun. And she does the Comstar like voice really well. And so like I think what?
No, keep going. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing.
No, she helped. Like we did a short
she helped you get the MiGs. That's all I keep thinking. I'm like, what?
Oh God,
hey,
no.
I'm gonna call her up like, hey, can I get those MiGs? And she's just like, I'll see what I could do. And then she hangs up. And she goes,
she knows a lot of people, but I don't think she's like internationally.
That's all I kept thinking in my head.
Do you think she's like, no worries, Mr. Tex, you've been good this year, and then she like
voice
claps
actress
her
and
hands.
A weapons procurer.
Yeah, she like claps her hands, and some guy comes out with the MiGs, like he has them behind a velvet curtain and pulls.
She's like, I just want to do voices, but people just come to me for MiGs.
Oh yes, my side business. No, she's cool.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit here. Let's see. We've got one from Mad Cow. That's the first one I see off the top of my head that I wanted to get to. During the Texs Talks Battletech, there is something of an overarching meta plot you've got going on with Professor Checkers, first being in the War-Torn Warehouse lecture hall, then on the dropship, and now we're on Van Zant. Is there anything more being put out into the meta to something of a plot? Or is that all just... Okay, so there is basically an overreaching plot you have just playing on the background then.
Maybe
no,
the real
there isn't.
Was
We're
the
just
friends we made along the way.
There is nothing. There's nothing. Stop looking. You're not going to find it.
You will find nothing.
Don't
Also,
worry
by the
about
way,
it.
Just while no one noticed, if you go
don't look behind the building in Van Zant. There's nothing back there.
By the way, if you if you go in Sarna, some of the more eagle-eyed people may have noticed they made Van Zant canon.
Wow, that's
oh
pretty
my
cool.
God.
It is one of the few planets with an unknown location. I am the only person who knows.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I just
started,
laughed my ass off when I found that out.
Didn't we, dude? We got that. The whole plot just kind of came as something fun that I was just making up for the middle of. I want to say it was like the American Civil War or sometime before that.
Yeah,
it was just like something we were making fun. I was like, oh, here's an old warehouse I photoshopped.
Yeah. We wanted to show something on the intro to make it different, to transitions.
Like an intro, and I was like, oh, this feels like a show now, and I was like, all right, I'll just start adding characters and stuff, and I was like, hey, can I get a voice actor to this? And Tex is like, what? Why? And I was like, yeah, it's funny, and he was like, all right, and then as soon as we started getting more and more into it, he was like, oh, we're gonna put this in here now and all this. I was like, yeah, man, this is like the opening for a TV, like. Almost like Bill Nye the Science Guy or something. It's just a lot of fun.
Okay. Another question by Four Dancing Lights. Are there any commercials you wanted to make or thought would be funny that you couldn't make or couldn't include in Texs Talks Battletech right now?
I don't know. I mean, I just go with whatever I find funny. I try not to force humor. I try not to keep things topical, because there's stuff that's topically funny. Political humor, for instance. If you go back and watch like talk shows, whenever they lean into political humor, they cut that out of best of albums of stuff like Johnny Carson and shit, because it's all very topical. Like he'll go out there and make like a Reagan joke or two, and like Granddad has to explain it to the room. Because for 10 or 15 minutes, it's just like, what? Or, you hear about like the savings and loan scandal or something like that. If you make things way too topical, they're not funny for long. They're very funny briefly. They're a good launching point for humor. But you have to make stuff a little more grounded, I would say, in the universe. So I always try to find funny things from the universe that are kind of universal. to human everything. I mean, our condition, everything we live with, you know, things that are common themes like get-rich-quick schemes, graft, greed, you know, people on TV lying, selling you bullshit, trying to get you to do X or Y, you know, violence made fun of on television through comical applications of violence through a state network, e.g. Steiner Scout Squad. You look at all these weird little funny things and you go, you know, I could see that. You just kind of deep fry the setting a little bit, because any good commercial or comedy in a setting has to be based on the setting, and it can't really come externally from it. You have to make references to the setting as though it were made in it as best you can with the lens you have, considering it's fiction, at least to fit what I'm doing with the character. Otherwise, it just wouldn't fit.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all for fun, man. We weren't trying to we weren't trying to bust up into Battletech setting or anything. It was just something fun that they added in.
Okay.
And yeah, we're just gonna keep going on and just seeing what else we'll make with it.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to have fun. I mean, the moment I told my team we have a very simple mission in this world, and we will make shit posts, and the moment we stop having fun, or the moment, you know, it becomes too troublesome, or the moment something like that happens and we just find that this isn't what we want to do, we stop. We're not in this to make money. We're in this to have a good time, and thankfully, I've been blessed to be able to use this limited fame and place in the world to do a lot of great work, and my team throughout. And I don't just mean the team here, but I mean the team at WBPL 76 and everything else have continued that fine work, being certainly aligned toward community-driven events and charity. And I find that those two equal grounding footprints kind of keep us where we need to be going. And I think if we kind of keep that going forward, I think we'll be just fine.
Okay. All right. I'd like to preface this next group of questions because they are related to people I've been asking about some other videos. I do want to say this, that you do bring up polls and interact with your community on YouTube and Patreon, Black Pants Legion, about what you'll be covering next, such as the Charger being the next video. But as natural, people are wondering if you'll be covering certain other topics. So we've been asked a couple of those questions here. So this was asked by Pistol 669 Nice 9 and by oh yeah, it's rad. They're wondering if you will be covering individuals or any of the great houses relatively soon.
I said I was doing a walkthrough of the great houses already, and I've addressed that, and as well on individuals in time, perhaps. I find that focusing it in on an individual in their life is really, though, not something I want to do, because a lot of them are contained throughout storybooks, especially the individuals with really long, interesting stories. So at that point, I would be more or less doing like a cliff notes, like, hey, you don't have to read the book. Don't even worry about it. I'm just going to give you the bullet points of what happens. And so I think in many cases that would rob you of being able to see a cool character reading, you know, a neat book. In many cases, I find that if I did a history of someone, I would try to focus it on perhaps backframed against a war or a conflict or a time period to illustrate their rule or competence or lack thereof.
Okay. Let's see. We have a question from Der Burger, and I think this could be explained similarly to how you did the Warhammer video. But they ask, would you ever consider doing a quote-unquote double feature? Something like the Centurion and the Trebuchet were designed to complement each other.
If I did that, I would get with my team and I'd say, let's do a Grindhouse double feature, and we'll have in the middle a very 1970s intermission. Like that's what I'd do if I did a double feature. I'd said, let's do a Grindhouse.
Disco Shuttle.
Exactly. So the Grindhouse, part A is 50 minutes, intermission 10 minutes, part B is 50 minutes, and just do a crazy two-parter like that.
Okay.
With a cool Grindhouse intermission and some really shit weird commercials in the center, you know, just really, 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 really weird. Yeah, that sounds up my alley.
Okay. Let's see. Let me try and get a name for this one. Unfortunately, I don't have a name to go along with this, but do you ever think you'll... let's see. Do you think you're ever going to cover mech weapons as part of covering the history of the mechs that use them?
Maybe. Yes and no. The thing is that the mech weapons have been portrayed many different ways, and in many different ways and marks and eras. And in going in on that sort of stuff, like I gunsmith. I don't gunsmith full time anymore, thank God. But I am a trained gunsmith and certified armor in many systems, and it's one of those things where there's all the difference in the world between a gun that was designed in a game or something that is based on reality and an operation system you can understand, and then stuff that's based on the future whatever. And so you look at stuff in Battletech that you have to kind of hand wave away. Like, imagine the armor and ammunition belt feed for what players do, where they put ammo in the feet and you've got a launcher on the shoulder. Right. And so imagine the ammo feed for that. Like, all right, make this helical feed go through all the things and take Mr. It would be like on the back of a menu at a Denny's where they have the maze, and it's like, help Mr. Hamburger find his way to Timmy. And so you're doing that, but with an ammo feed, and in the middle is a nuclear reactor. And so you're like, all right, I'll get this.
Okay. All right. A question from Wraith Darkstar. Having covered capital ships, are there any plans to cover some more of the other weapons of war, such as aerospace or artillery? I guess that could be in the same vein.
Oh, I would love to cover artillery. I can talk artillery all day from CEP to Splash. I can talk artillery, yes. If I did artillery, I'd have to cover a few different weapon systems to give an example of good direct and indirect fire systems, self-propelled howitzers, mobile guns, and C4ISR as it kind of... yeah, I'll save that for a talk. Because I could start a whole 30-minute spiel on that right now. So I won't. But yeah, sure.
Okay. We have a question from Sunshine7734. But I'd also like to add on to this a little bit. They ask, will you ever do a video on super heavy mechs? And what I'd like to add to this is, would you consider doing videos of just the mech classes and what they're basic for, like light mechs for scouts, mediums, and heavies?
I think the super heavies are weird. And the reason I take issue with them is because of what we like to call logistics standards and transport. So if you look at tanks are typically a uniform size and weight, so they can fit on rail carriers, so they can be moved up to the battlefield, because every mile a tank drives is a motherfucker to maintenance. So you want the tanks to go all the way up to the battlefield as close as you can, unload the tanks, get them ready, and then drive them to wherever you have to. And there is a general universal maximum size for stuff like that, that is standardized. And so in my head, I see the older Star League ships and standardized where 100 ton is your max drop limit. And I'm assuming 100 Star League tons or 100 tons of weapons capacity, 100 tons storage, however you want to term it. But there is a set dimension and maximal limit. Having something that's bigger than that is a lot like saying, what if I made a bigger oil tanker? What if I made a bigger tank? What if I made a bigger front door to my house? What would it achieve? Now, if it has a limited application, that's interesting, especially if it's incorporated into doctrine. But all of the things that spin off from that, having to move, equip, repair, and work on these things, if mechs have a finite maximum size on average, you would assume that 90% of the mech bays were roughly the same size on dropships and roughly the same size on ground installations. And so in my head, it kind of rankles against that, because it would, like, imagine getting your car oil changed if your car was 20% wider or 20% heavier or 20% taller. Imagine going and trying to get anything done maintenance-wise on that vehicle if it was oversized in any major capacity to the point it was unique in its class. it would make sense to have something like that if you only had a handful of them for a very specific purpose. But as something overall large and doctrine-wise, it's like the Maus or the Rata P1000 or anything like that. It is a Wunderwaffe nonsense. And that's just in my head. That is what if. That is Mr. Tex's take on things. But I think that super heavies of anything in any weapon is a lot like the Japanese Kante Kessen strategy in World War II, where they say, I will deliver this immaculate, perfect, decisive blow, and I will destroy my enemies with greater weapons, and it never happens. And so putting all your eggs in that basket and saying, I will develop fewer bestest things is just whimsical nonsense, doctrine-wise. And it always just kind of rankled with me. But they did come out in clicky text era, so then again, I wasn't always a fan of that.
Okay. Let's see. We got one more question here. Let me see if I can track it down real quick. Let's see. Here it is. For everyone involved, if you had unlimited resources, we'll make this the last question. So, if you had unlimited resources and access to whatever technologies you needed to produce for the Texs Talks Battletech, how different would it look than what we currently have? If you could pick any one subject for a video, what would you choose?
I would. It would look like Cosmos.
Oh, wow.
That's what I would do with it.
So you would get in your starship of imagination and go through the stars.
And billions.
Well, it's not just that, because, he could go and just like David Attenborough, whoever, just like stand next to like a mech that's like obviously not there and explain like exactly why this is a big deal and why it's so big, and then we can also then animate like or have reenactments of like things that happen in the universe. It's like lots of fun to do something like that. I don't know if the setting is that well put together for a big production, like more than one, but I'm sure that we could probably make some stuff.
I think okay, one of these days we'll just run into somebody who has a bigger production company and they're like, we need to lose some money. That's what's going to happen. They're going to say, I need to lose some fucking money bad. I need to lose money so bad, so quickly. And I need to lose it right fucking now. And then they will come to us and we will make something that shouldn't exist and they will claim credit for it. But Mike and Gypsy and I, a core team, we will all like nod and know that we created a shitpost in the guise of something professional.
Gypsy, how about yourself? Given unlimited resources and whatever technology for these projects, is there something you'd like to see done?
No, since apparently I'm not super versed on the newer lore, but apparently like the Il clan lore is that basically the clans won and all they have there and everything like that. It will be interesting to have like a revisionist history of the inner sphere from the perspective of the clans.
That would be so funny.
Yes.
A revisionist history of the inner sphere from the clans would be hilarious. Oh my, because it would just be like, their feeble ideologies did not protect them from our honorable might. It would be just so stupid. It would be great. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. It would just be like watching North Korean TV, which I'm banned from on Twitch.
That's right.
You are.
That's true. I did get banned. I will tell you the joke that got me banned if you want.
Sure, if it doesn't get me banned from WBPL.
No, not at all. I made a joke and they said, and I said, nice show. And they said, what do you think? And I said, I feel bad for the leader. And they said, oh, why is that? And I said, it must be hard being him. And they said, why is that? And I said, well, it has to be hard being the only fat guy in the country. Bam, banned.
Wow.
So is that your any percent speed run being banned?
Yeah, they do not like They did. They've upped their security a lot. You have to sign up and provide a lot of shit to post on their thing now. So I got in while this shit posting was easy. Good luck, people.
It's nice to see that no matter the country, Jan is all the same everywhere. It provides comfort in these hard times.
All right.
The Griffin is not the best mech, Boba. Boba he hates the Griffin, but he's always said he does it pretty much like a regular car review. So he's like, the Griffin is the best 55-ton mech used for, and it's hilarious. He'll just bring it up anytime people come into a chat and start asking me 55 Battletech questions. Boba will walk into that chat and go, the Griffin is the best 55-ton mech. And it gets, people start getting mad. It's hilarious.
All right. With that. Oh, what'd you catch there, Mike?
No, I have a really bad idea.
Well, please.
Okay, you gonna call me out? All right. Imagine any stressful situation that's full of tension where someone wants to fucking fight you or something like horrible is about to happen. And the way you diffuse it is you just, in the overhead PA, you just start playing the Sanford and Son theme. How are you going to have a yelling match over that? Imagine trying to be angry with that playing.
Yeah, that would work.
Starts off.
Nope. No one can get mad. You can't be like, I did those. I can't do it this song.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's that or I loved where I was watching people play Hold Fast, and one guy's like playing all his bagpipe music to sound really tough, and the guy next to him is just cranking like Bavarian chicken dance while charging. So this guy's like cranking all of his Celtic war shit, and he's just like, and all the fucking, it's like House Atreides marching forward, and then this guy next to him is like, just running around him and just absolutely deflating this guy's movie moment he made for himself. Absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful. All right. I think that was a good question to wrap up on. I'd like to thank Texs, Gypsy, and Mike for agreeing to do this and joining us, taking time out of their evening. Thank you to the chat for pitching us some very interesting questions. It seems like everybody had a good time answering them.
Yes, I would say in the future, if people are interested, we'll do more of these, like more Q&A and stuff like that, and we could bring in people who work in various parts if we want, and just expand on it a bit.
That actually ties into the next round. I would like to thank the access I was given to the pictures for this video. We have pictures from Eldonius, from Ledoux, and from Spacer I grabbed, and another artist I can't find off the top of my head, unfortunately. But the pictures that we've had just kind of going in the background give you guys someone to look at while we did the interview. Maybe we could do an interview with the artists if we can find some time, asking them about the basic breakdowns of how they go about doing the commissions.
Yeah, I mean, the art process, each artist is unique in that. The stuff and how they work and how they do it. And it's amazing to see kind of like what people come up with, because everyone has a thing where all artists go away to their little place and they just craft and forage, and it's interesting to watch.
So yeah, maybe that might be another interview we do, excuse me, later on down the line. But again, gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Striker.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if we have anything else coming up later tonight on WBPL, but again, thank you, chat, for coming along.
Oh, we do. We have an after hours, actually.
Oh, okay. We do have an after hours set up. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead, take ourselves a nice break, and holy smokes, we just got a 5,000 bit cheer from Dancing with Four
Wow.
Lights, and I don't care what you say.
5,000 pennies?
Yeah,
That's a lot of
5,000
pennies.
pennies, and they are
Wow.
under.
You knocked
my
someone the
goddamn
fuck
couch.
out.
I have to pick them up now.
You got,
That
yeah,
is
you can knock
probably
someone-
like one whole group.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine trying to move 5,000 pennies. That's a lot of fucking pennies.
They are
Oh, and
under
Sinek
my couch
asked-
now.
Sinek asked what gun did Patton use. He had 2.
Oh, and
Yeah,
then the
too.
night owl's like, here's 1,000. So what are you doing? What do you have to do now? The night owl is asking.
No, look, I'll answer the gun question. Patton had 2. He had a Colt Single Action Army, and he had a Smith & Wesson Model 27 Pre-27 registered Magnum, bought from the factory, tuned exactly the way he wanted. And you can still go find that receipt.
All right, then. And so, again, with that, we're going to end here. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out. And Chet, thank you for swinging around. We'll probably sounds like we'll be having WBPL after hours. Probably give them a few minutes to get everything ready.
Yeah,
again,
thanks for hosting, Striker. Thanks a lot for doing this. You're really good.
Thank you very much.
you're more than welcome. And everyone, again, have a good evening.
Take care.
Take care.